This is my disc review of the Reptilian Stego, an incredibly overstable disc that can be used as a putter or a mid-range. This is a utility disc that you can use to practically throw around corners or achieve sharp angles in flight. However, it's extremely resistant to distance throwing, and of all the discs that I own, it's the one I can throw the least distance, no matter how hard I try. There are two types of plastic that this disc comes in. Fossil, which is a hard type of plastic, and Tarpit, which is a softer type. I purchased the fossil type because I prefer the more rigid plastics, but I'm sure the soft plastic is just fine for those who prefer the more bendable plastic types. I'm going to show some footage of me throwing not just this disc, but 3 other overstable putters in Innova's Rhino, Hydra, and Pig. This will help to give you an idea of the flight path of the Stego compared to them. Not only that, but I have a few other discs that I throw a few times as well, in addition to these, so you can see how they throw with similar efforts. I have a mid-range and some fairway drivers that are all overstable, and one moderate distance driver that will make an appearance at the end. As you will see here, the Stego is very, very overstable. At best, I got maybe 130 feet in terms of distance. If you want something that is absolutely the meatiest of meat hooks, that will curve around something like trees or walls, or if your hyzer game needs some help, the Stego is definitely legit. The Stego is basically the top dog in terms of stability, fighting the wind, and resisting turnover. And the fade on this is incredible. I can throw every overstable disc that I have significantly further than this. By my standards, 20, 30, 40, or sometimes even 50 feet further. For the average person using this disc as a putter, I'm sure the Stego will find a use in their bag. For specific purposes, this is definitely a utility disc. I'll be adding it to a bigger bag that I use since I have different loadouts based on the number of discs that I want to carry, from either 9 or 10 to 12, 16, or about 2 dozen or so based on the bag. The Pig is a really good overstable disc. I was able to get it to about 170 to maybe 175 feet, but often less today. For mainstream purposes, the Pig is rock solid, and I've already moved it into my 12 disc bag loadout and greater bag loadouts. And it saved me relatively recently in terms of a game that I played with some friends on a windy day. The Pig and Stego definitely serve different market segments. I think the Pig is a better choice for most purposes, and you can certainly get more distance with it. But I think with the crazier wind situations out there, I'd feel much more confident with the Stego. But outside of that, I really can't get it to go very far. The Rhino is my go-to overstable putter, and I wanted to put this in the comparison because while I focus on using it within 100 feet, I've got this disc to 200 feet before, and it serves the same purpose at any distance, to trail off towards the end and slow down. This is not very overstable, but it's still significantly overstable, and you can see here that I'm a little out of control with it after handling both the Stego and the Pig. The Hydra is a floating disc that happens to be moderately overstable. I've used this in my minimalist 9-disc loadout as my overstable mid-range that doubles as a floating disc near water. I felt this was a great disc to compare with because it's somewhere between the Pig and the Rhino in terms of stability. It cuts through the wind better than either disc, but fades similar to the Rhino, and I trust it to go straighter, further, so that's why it's become a staple in my bag, even my smallest bag. The Rock is the only significantly overstable mid-range that I have. All the others that I have are in the stable category, so I just didn't bring them. That said, this is a tremendous wind fighter that is, for me at least, the next step above the Hydra in my lineup. It's functionally a slower fairway driver for me, and whereas a Stego is technically classified as a mid-range, this Rock flies much, much further than it, and I think the fade isn't really evident until the very end of the flight, which really lets you throw it straight for long distances and with power, or moderately, with slight anhyzer without easily turning over. Now we're into fairway drivers, and the Whippet is one of my two very overstable control drivers, and I wanted to show you the variety of flight paths with them. They are in many ways the same disc, exhibiting similar lines in the air, but in comparison to the Stego, they still fly much farther. This disc will basically not turn for me without severe anhyzer, and it really slows down and stalls out in lieu of any actual turnover. It's a utility disc that allows me to fight the wind and turn corners, yet still throw a decent distance. My second very overstable fairway driver is the Viper. With the oversized diameter of a mid-range and the wings of lower speed driver, this disc is another useful tool that is somewhat similar to the Whippet, but with a less dramatic left fade towards the end of its flight. I can actually get better distance than the Whippet with this Viper, and in contrast to the Stego, this is a high-speed flyer. But as you can see here, I get a little out of control throwing these overstable discs, trying to turn them over time. Last but not least is my Starfire bird. This is technically outside of my throwing range, and I struggle greatly to push it any distance, but I can't compare my overstable disc without showing this one. As with some other discs, I struggled to make it turn over at all, and things just started looking ridiculous by this point. Even with an absolute crazy anhyzer and throwing it high, I just couldn't get this disc to turn at all. This is overkill for me personally, and I never throw it, but I hope this gives you an idea what other overstable putters, mid-range, and slower speed drivers look like compared to the ultimate meat hook that is the Stego. This is my comparison of these discs, and I hope you enjoyed it. I highly recommend Reptilian's Stego to anyone that wants an insane wind fighter that won't go far under the best of circumstances, but may save the day when someone really needs to avoid the wind carrying it away, or if they want to throw it around a tree, a curve or a corner for short distances at least. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.